Okay, a secondary source is a source which comments about the primary source. That makes sense. Primary, secondary makes sense. Your closest secondary source is going to be your textbook, because aside from the stuff that McMahon and those other people have collected up, there's stuff in your textbook that McMahon and those other people have written. So your closest secondary source is probably going to be something written in the textbook. I've just flipped the textbook open to page 339 here. And at the top in this box is a biography, a little biography of this writer. Well, McMahon and those other people that edited the textbook, they actually wrote that. They didn't write the story, but they wrote this stuff. So the easiest way to get a secondary source would be to use these little biographical sketches that are at the beginning of each story. You can make it much more complicated than that, and you're welcome to give it a shot if you want to, but that's what I do because that's the easiest. So I'm going to go to back to my MLA style guide, and I see that I'm going to start on page 4 and 5, which show me again how to make this entry. So I'm going down to page 4 and page 5, and you see that we have the author's last name. At the end of the quote, we have the author's last name and a page number. Now in this case, the author of your text is Elizabeth McMahon and 3 other people there. So I'm going back up to my my list of works cited, which is on page 2, and I'm going to see that I have in number 3 on that page 3 or more authors, because I've got 4 authors there. So I'm going to go down to page 14, and that's going to tell me what that works cited page will look like. Now remember, you're citing the author of the textbook in this case because the authors of the textbook wrote those little biographical sketches in the box there. Again, that's the easiest way to meet this piece of the requirement. So I'm on page 14, and I see 3 or more authors. First author, I'm down at number 3 at the bottom of the page. First author's last name, comma, first name, comma, and then the abbreviation ETAL, et al., period. That means and others. So McMahon, comma, Elizabeth, comma, et al. Then the title of the textbook, which you know what that is. Okay. The publisher, comma, the date, period. That's all there is to that. Okay. It would be McMahon, comma, Elizabeth, comma, et al., period, literature and the writing process in italics, period, publisher Pearson, comma, date 2014. That one's real easy. And when you, that's your works cited page. When you cite the thing in the body of your text, you would go back up to 3 or more authors. Let me find it for you. It's on page... Sorry, I'm looking here. Two or more authors. I'm on page 6. All right, and that's how it's done. Okay. If you introduce it, Elizabeth McMahon and others write in literature and the writing process, and then you quote from the little biographical boxes, then you simply put the page number. Look at number 5. You see page V, page Roman numeral 5. If you don't mention the author in your setup, then you'd have to say McMahon et al. And then the page number. Okay. Again, I understand that you've already been exposed to all this, and this is just review for you. So I'm not going to take too much time to go over it. So that's a secondary source. All right. So your primary source is your story itself. You have one story. You have 3 stories. Your secondary source is either the little biographical boxes, which is the easiest thing, or if you find some mention of the story someplace else in the text of your textbook that's actually written by the authors, not the story, but the chapters are written by the author. So if you quote something from one of the chapters, that's your secondary source, and you'd cite it that way. Okay, so on to tertiary sources. Hang on.